Lena stepped out of her car and onto the gravel driveway, the crunch of stones beneath her feet echoing through the stillness. The cabin loomed before her, its wooden facade weathered to a soft gray that blended seamlessly into the misty forest surroundings. She had rented this place for a week, seeking solitude to finish her novel. The isolation was supposed to be a blessing, but as she gazed up at the cabin, a shiver ran down her spine. The trees seemed to lean in, their branches like skeletal fingers reaching out to snatch her back. Lena shook off the feeling, telling herself it was just her imagination playing tricks. She had always been drawn to the mysterious and the unknown, which was why she wrote suspense novels. But now, as she stood alone in this desolate place, she wondered if she had gone too far. As she entered the cabin, a musty smell greeted her, mixed with the scent of old wood and damp earth. The interior was simple, a living room with a fireplace, a small kitchen, and a loft bedroom above. Lena dropped her bags on the floor and began to unpack, her movements methodical and calming. The first few days passed quietly. Lena wrote feverishly, the words flowing onto the page as if inspired by the eerie silence around her. But as night fell, the shadows seemed to grow longer and darker, casting sinister shapes on the walls. She tried to ignore them, focusing on her work, but the feeling of being watched persisted. One evening, as she sat by the fire, Lena heard a faint scratching sound coming from outside. At first, she thought it might be an animal, but then the scratching stopped, only to start again in a different spot. It sounded deliberate, like someone was circling the cabin. Lena's heart raced as she rose from her chair, her eyes fixed on the windows. The darkness outside seemed to press against the glass, making her feel trapped. She tried to call for help, but her phone had no signal. Panic set in as she realized she was truly alone. Suddenly, the scratching stopped. The silence was oppressive, heavy with anticipation. Lena waited, her breath held, wondering what would happen next. And then, just as she was about to move, a piece of paper slipped under the door. It was a note, written in red ink. "You shouldn't be here." Lena's blood ran cold. She knew she had to leave, but as she turned to grab her bags, she heard footsteps outside. They were light, cautious, but unmistakable. Someone was coming for her. With a surge of adrenaline, Lena rushed to the door and flung it open, but there was no one there. The forest was quiet once more, the only sound the distant hooting of an owl. Breathless and shaken, Lena realized she had to get out of there, fast. She grabbed her things and ran back to her car, not stopping until she was miles away from the cabin. As she looked back in the rearview mirror, the trees seemed to close in, hiding the cabin from view. Lena never went back to that place, but the memory of those haunting days stayed with her, inspiring some of her most chilling stories. And though she never found out who wrote that ominous note, she knew that sometimes the most terrifying mysteries are the ones that remain unsolved.